وين راح ابني؟ بدي أعرف مصيره.
ببحث عن ابني المفقود من 13/10/2024 من قصفة الدار، وهو قاعد بيتحمم في قلبها وظلوا في الدار، وببحث عن جثته.
فقدت بيتنا، فقدت ابني اللي مش عارف وين اختفى وين راح ولا بعرف عنه طريق.
Well, we have a very difficult situation in Gaza. I mean, formally we have a ceasefire, but let's face it, for the Palestinians in Gaza, there is no proper ceasefire. There have been violence and killings from the Israeli side every single day since the ceasefire was announced. And to end this violence, to have a proper ceasefire, that is the first step. When it comes to finding people under the rubble, we actually don't know how many were killed by the Israelis. We know that at least 60, 70,000 something, but there might be a lot more people than so that actually were killed by the Israeli violence. So end of violence, help for clearing the buildings that were destroyed, and help for reconstruction, that has to be our priority now. Well, I think we have to make Israel responsible. The EU has been very clear that Russia is responsible for the violence and the destruction in Ukraine. And we actually say that Russia has to take responsibility for the reconstruction in Ukraine. We should be as clear about Israel in Gaza, and also when they destroy the livelihoods of Palestinians on the West Bank. The Israelis should be held responsible. And that is not only about paying for what they destroyed, it's also a personal responsibility where ministers as well as militaries should be investigated and should be put to trial and to be forced to take responsibility for the crimes they committed in this genocide. And sad to say, I say that the EU has been a bit hypocritical. There's been double standards, very clear about criticizing Russia, but not as clear about criticizing Israel, and that has to change. First of all, the violence have to stop, and all Israeli military forces have to leave the occupied Palestinian territories. That is the fundamental problem of the conflict, the illegal occupation. And then to give access to the international community to help the Palestinians to rebuild and to form a new governing structure. And there has to be an end, for example, of the Israeli actions against UNRWA. UNRWA is actually the only body that can fulfill the task of humanitarian aid on the ground in Gaza as things are now. And there are plenty of resources waiting in the warehouses, for example, in Jordan, to be brought to Gaza, and that has to be allowed in. When there are better housing, when there are international presence, when there is a possibility not to be bombed by the Israelis every day, then we have the conditions that make it possible to go through all these missing persons, who they were, how they were killed, and that should be the foundations for coming trials against those who committed this genocide. If you defend international law, if you defend human rights, there is no other way but making Israel responsible for the genocide they committed.